What is up, guys? Today I am here with the ZNH electric commuter bike. Runs for about $850. Just had it delivered earlier today when I was on a walk with Teddy. I came back and I was like, oh wow, I got a bike review to make. So we're gonna chop this thing open and get to work. Hopefully you can see that okay. Alright, so while we're doing this review, there's one bike I'd really like us to keep in mind. If you've been watching all my videos, you probably saw my review of the Jayceon e-bike. It's a similar commuter bike, also 350 watts, probably maybe $100 cheaper than this one. So really what I want to find out is if this thing performs a little better. We'll see if it has any better components and see if it's worth that extra little bit there. Because at the end of the day, it's still only $850 for an e-bike. It's a 350 watt, I think 36 volt battery. So we'll take a look here and see what you get for $850. All right, so first things first, let's see what's in this box. Oh wow, I think this is a bike pump. Huh, that's pretty cool. It's far from top of the line, but at the end of the day, who's gonna complain for a free bike pump? When you own as many bikes as I do, I mean, you can never complain about an extra bike pump. Let's see what came in the treasure box. Got some cute little gloves for assembling, that's nice. Some standard kind of cheap pedals. Hopefully these are maybe extra parts. The craziest multi-tool I've ever seen. I guess it works. And then this is of course the charger. All right, what I'm gonna do is not record the next little bit because I will just be taking all of the zip ties off this. So see you in like, I don't know, 20 minutes probably. All right, that was sincerely probably about 15 minutes. So far, I mean, obviously any bike you buy online, it's gonna come in a box, it's gonna come in pieces, you always will have work to do. I guess I've just been spoiled recently and not had to do that. So this one took me by surprise. It was a little bit harder than I thought, and we're just getting started. So up next, we are gonna put the wheels on and adjust the headset and handlebars. So these Allen tools will be your best friend while you are building it. Usually I use like a nicer set of Allen wrenches, but I like how short these ones are. It helps get in nooks and crannies a little easier. So, and yes, I did slice my finger open, but thank goodness I have my Elsa and Anna frozen Band-Aids to keep me safe, so you don't have to worry about me. All right. Now adjusting the headset is really not too challenging. What we're gonna do is first swing this around. All right, nice and loose now, so this should swing and we'll make it absolutely perpendicular to the fork. And there we go. And then we'll go ahead and retighten these back down. Get that nice and tight. And then we will begin to undo this part of the stem. All right, just about done here. We'll finish cranking this down. All right, we are in business. Up next, we are going to assemble this front wheel. And right off the bat, one thing I'm noticing, if you're touching this and not getting anything on your hand, that's actually a problem. You're gonna wanna grease up basically everything on this bike. This piece is for packaging. It keeps the fork from breaking essentially. You're gonna throw that away. All right, so what I did is I just popped this back on and I just threaded it like 2 twists, enough to keep it in place. And then we're just going to lift it up and pop it on and make sure that the disc brake aligns right in here with the calipers of the brake. All right, that went on pretty easily, and now we'll just tighten up the quick release. All right, at this point, if you've been following along, your bike is just about rideable. One thing I like to do in all my videos is just go over the parts that come with the bike. You know, I did the same thing for all these guys. I'll do it for this one too. We're gonna see like what I like on the bike, what I don't like on the bike, and just go through basically everything it has to offer. I'm gonna start up here in the cockpit, and right away, honestly, there's some pros and cons. I do like that we have some name brand components for the shifters. So you do have a Shimano front derailleur and a rear derailleur. Now, most e-bikes I review actually don't even bother with the front derailleur. It's kind of an interesting choice because usually on an e-bike, you're letting the motor do all the work and you don't really need anything other than a rear cassette here. I mean, I'm not going to complain. I guess you got some bonus features, but most bikes, I mean, especially mountain bikes, have gone away with front derailleurs at all. I could see that being a plus for people who are heavily into the pedaling aspect of this bike because it will let you use let the motor kick in while you have higher gears. So can't complain about that. But also at the same time, I think they should have gotten rid of this piece altogether and maybe taken some of the budget from getting rid of this and got some nicer parts for the rest of this bike. But where it does shine is, like I said, you have a tourney Shimano derailleur, so it's a step up from like the blank branded Shimanos. So you have an OK derailleur, OK cassette, and OK front derailleur. Nothing crazy cool, but again, it's fine. You have disc brakes. They are mechanical and they have no brand name associated to them at all, so they get kind of like a you know, they're gonna work just fine, but at the same time, I would have nice to seen even just any name on the brakes here, other than this Wuxing, which is on every cheap e-bike I've ever reviewed. They work. Moving back up to the cockpit, you got a lot of buttons, and that's the downside of having that rear cassette. Is you got a lot to remember up here. You got your brakes, you got shifting in the front, you got shifting in the back, and then, I mean, another just kind of disappointing. Like everyone has screens now. Even on that $700 Jayceon, similar to this, it had like a full color screen. So very disappointing to see this screen here. Again, though, there's a lot of people who don't want all the bells and whistles. They want it more of a bike. And if that's you, then you're going to be happy to see that this can probably fly under the radar, not looking like an e-bike because there's no screen. Yeah, we'll have to play with that tomorrow and figure out how it works, I guess. Moving right along, again, it's just bumming me out because this has the potential to be a nice bike. Like, I love the paint finish on this. The frame actually seems pretty decent. But then again, you look at this fork, it is just the cheapest fork you can ever imagine. I mean, put any weight on it, it's probably gonna bottom out. Yeah. Like, I look at this one, and I've always said this is like the cheapest fork on any e-bike, but I've been corrected because this one is even another step down. And it's unfortunate. Like I said, I really was hoping for more. Grips, I guess, seem okay. Very plasticky, though. You're probably going to want to swap them out. Tires, fine. They're fine. In the rear, another thing I really would hope for is a brake light of some sorts, but you just have a reflector. The good news is it does actually have a headlight. I will plug that in for tomorrow, but that's good. So you do have some front lighting for night rides. And being a commuter, you know, if you put commuter in the name, the headlight's an absolute must. But I think a taillight is too, because if you're riding on the streets and this thing is going, 20 miles an hour or so, you do want to indicate if you're anywhere near cars, if you're stopping, and the more lights, the better. So that would have been a plus to see that on here. And then this is the 350 watt motor. It's a decently small motor. They start at around 250 watts up to 750 is usually the legal range. So 350 is a step up from a super small motor, but it's far from a big motor. At the end of the day, too, looking at the sizing of this bike, it really is meant more for, I'd say, kids to teenagers. And you do want your teenager on a bike that doesn't have too much power. I have kids, and I mean, granted they're young, but there's no way I'd send them out on any of the bikes over here. These are all 750 watt bikes that when you give it power, they're torquey. They have top speeds of over 20 miles per hour, up to almost 30. And it's just dangerous at the end of the day. Where this is smaller, it's got the cool color scheme. If your kid's breaking it, you don't have to worry too much because any replacement part is available and it's going to be an upgrade, in fact. And then you don't have too much power, so it does give them the luxury of having more mobility because it is an e-bike, it is functional, but you're not going to have to worry like, are they cruising around at 30 miles an hour weaving in and out of traffic? Probably not on this thing. All right, we're back. I thought I'd be able to get back to this next day, but it snowed again and melted again. It's still a little weird outside, but we got some sunshine on this gorgeous Sunday. And what I'm going to do is finish setting up this what is it called again? The 2NH mountain bike, e-bike. We're gonna take it for a ride, and then I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on it. All right. Welcome to Battery Tech Talk. It almost sounds like I said TikTok. Battery Tech Talk. What we have here, I just want to double check. Yeah, so this is a 10 amp hour battery and it has 36 amperage. What we're starting to see more trending towards is 48 volts and 15 amp hour plus. When you're shopping for an e-bike that you want to keep around for more than like a couple years, like you're in it for the long haul, you want to have a minimum of what I've been saying is 15 to 20 amp hours. That's the industry standard now. But granted, you're gonna have to get into like, I don't know, $1,500 to $2,000 in that price range to get a nice battery like that. So why am I bringing this up with this only having a 10 amp hour? I do think this is okay if it is your first bike. If you want to get a feel for the e-bike, maybe you want to try this out for a summer, sell it and get a new one next summer, maybe upgrade it to something like this Velotrek here with a 14 amp hour. You have options. So e-bikes really do hold their value really well. You can ride them for basically a whole year. If you take good care of it, you could sell it and maybe only lose like $100 to $200 tops. That's a great thing about the e-bike market right now because people do prefer to buy them on Craigslist because they can maybe like, or Facebook Marketplace, because they can take them on a ride before they get it in the mail and one, have to build it like you saw me have to do. So someone else builds it for them. That's a good perk. And two, obviously they just get to ride and feel and make sure it's like a good quality and it rides nice. So it's always really easy to sell these online after you're done. All right, unfortunately, this bike is a member of No Grease Gang. So this is cheap, like automotive general purpose grease. I just happen to have this laying around, but obviously it's better to have bike grease or even something as simple as this cleaner lubricant. I use this on a lot of my bikes, basically, especially new. When in doubt, if you don't know if it's been greased or if it should be greased, this is better than nothing. So these two things, while you're setting up a bike, I recommend getting in your garage to have them because grease you can always use. And this stuff is actually what I'll be using now, but this is a good backup too. This is actually your battery level down here, which is good. I'm glad it's not just 3 levels of battery indicator. So we can go low, medium, high, and then the M is just on and off. There's no like modes that I can tell. And then on here you have your headlight button. Hopefully you can see that. On and off. Off. And then we have a horn, which is annoying. Anyway, that is the bike as far as a spec looks. Okay, before we go on our ride, there's one thing I just have to show you guys. I don't feel like I'd be doing my job if I didn't. So these bolts right here keep the stem in place. It basically allows you to align the wheel with the handlebars here. And these are pretty important screws. Without it, you'd start to turn and your wheel would still go straight. And both the top and bottom, I'm gonna try to get up and close, have not only with me just setting up the bike once, eroded a bit, but they also have cracked. It's really noticeable here. Hopefully I can get that for you guys. Right there. This bolt is going to give any day now. So on one hand, that has got to be a huge knock on this bike. On the other hand though, a nice assembly like this, or sorry, getting a nice version of this is not a nice one, very cheap. And it's a shame they didn't just, the whole bike, it's a shame because everything, if they just would have spent a little more, one, they could have charged more for the bike and it would have been worth it, but two, it just really kind of gives me a red flag that everything on this is maybe the cheapest it could get. So alright, so what I like to do on these tests is we're gonna go, first we're gonna try out mode 1, 2, and 3 while pedaling, and then we're gonna go ahead and do a standstill test just using the throttle to see what kind of torque it can give us, and then we're gonna do a hill test, and then we're gonna come back and give you my final thoughts. So we'll start at low, and I'll get to pedaling. Alright, not feeling anything kick on. There it goes. Alright, low's actually got a decent amount of power, I'd say. I have no idea how fast I'm going because I don't have a display, but it feels nice. Nice casual roll. Okay, we're in medium now. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah. All right, now we're in high. Let's see what we got. I'm not noticing all that big of a difference between medium and high there. Very close. Well, could just be me. Maybe we'll see it more when we do throttle. And then something else I noticed is how when you're using the power, the battery, it goes down to like 2 notches. When you're going full power, it'll say you only have like 2 bars. Where then when you start coasting, you're back to like 4 or full, which it's typical on these cheaper bikes. It even happens on some nicer ones, but just, I don't know. It's hard to predict how far you actually have left when it does stuff like that. So keep that in mind too. Here is my favorite test. I think it shows you the most about the bike. We're gonna keep it on high. We're gonna do throttle only here. And we're on a mostly flat, maybe, it's flat. I was gonna say slightly uphill, but it's not uphill really at all. And we're just going to use the throttle, no pedaling at all, so you can see exactly how much power it has pushing a $250 pound fully grown man. So let's let it go. See there, it goes down to 2 bars. All right, so it did get up to a decent speed, don't get me wrong, but it took a while. It took maybe, I don't know, like 300 yards to get up to speed. So, but that's kind of typical on these like lower level bikes or the 350 watts or 250 watts. You're gonna see similar performance to that on all of them. So that's no knock against this one in particular. That's just typical with those 350 watt motors. Now, again, it's always hard to show a hill on camera. This is what I'd call an average hill. It's definitely something you start huffing and puffing on a normal bike. So it's at least enough to get a good feel of if it can get me up throttle only. Again, 250 pound man, what I'm calling basically a child's bike with a 10 amp hour battery and a 350 watt motor. Can the throttle alone get me up the hill? Let's give it a try. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if we'll make it. Ready, go. Okay, come on, baby. Oh, wow. slow and steady wins the race, I guess. Oh man, it's starting to get steep. I mean, it's going, it's not stopping. It's a consistent like 2 miles an hour though. I'm not gonna give it any help. I wanna see it get us up. This is the steepest part right here. Oh, come on. Okay, we're almost to the top of the hill here. And you know what? It technically did it. It technically got us up that hill. One thing I'll say is when I do these hill tests, I do usually go to a bit steeper of a hill. I just knew that it wouldn't make it, so I tried to keep it realistic. See, now that we're on flat ground, we're kind of cruising again, and it's fun. I like it. But this is a small bike. I'm a big guy. So, I don't know. Let's go home and we'll talk final thoughts here. Okay. Just got back home. It's time to give me my thoughts on this guy. And I'm really trying to find the perfect person for this bike. Buying it used. That's a great place to buy it. If you're getting it for like $600, that's where this bike makes sense. I think it would be a perfect $600 to $700 bike, whether it's new or used. At $850, which I think is the current price on the site, maybe there's some promos going on. I mean, there's worse options, but at the same time, I think there's better options too. I'm not going to suggest anything else, but maybe look into the Jayceon. Just go to their website, find their bike that looks like this, or it's on my YouTube channel too. I've reviewed it if you want to take a look, just to compare them and see maybe the difference in parts. And wow, my hair looks crazy. But you could definitely just see, you know, the pros and cons of each. So the good, like I said, maybe you're into that front cassette here and you want more speeds, and also just pedaling overall on this combined with the 350 watt motor is actually kind of fun. So I do like that. That's where 350 watt motors shine for me. If you are more of a pedaler and you're not using that throttle at all, it's going to work out pretty well actually. But if you are trying to find something that you will actually be using throttle mode a lot, you're gonna need 500 watts minimum. That's just the way it goes, especially, at least if you're in a hilly area. Now, some other things, like I said, battery could be better. But again, with the 350 watt battery, it's not the end of the world. I wish the parts were better overall, and I think that's just the summation of this entire review. This entire bike is, it had potential. In the pictures, I said, yeah, send it. I'd love to review it. It looks pretty cool, actually, because I like the green. But when it got here, I was just like, man, if they would have just spent like $2 more on every part, they could have charged $900, no problem, and it would have been a quality product. So it's a shame when that happens. Like I said, problems with the machining of the parts. These $15 e-bike brakes break, but they also break, which is the problem. So sometimes with these Wuxings, what happens is it'll send a signal to the controller and make it think that you're holding the brake when you're not actually holding the brake. Therefore, you won't be able to use the motor at all until you fix or replace the brakes. So that can happen a lot on these. The derailleur and like the actual mechanics of the bike, they could be worse, so they're not really that bad. Like, I've seen a lot worse on e-bikes, so that has something going for it. And like I said, if you are pedaling a lot and you're looking for that front and rear derailleur, this is one of the few e-bikes that actually has that, so that could be a plus for you. And the final thing I like is the weight, even with the battery, really light. So that about does it. Maybe check out some other reviews. Maybe you liked what you saw, because at the end of the day, I am a pretty bigger guy, so if you're smaller or younger, could actually be a pretty decent bike for you. So let me know what you think and if you bought this or if you're looking to buy one. And that's it. I'll see ya. Bye.